There's something Paramahansa Yogananda learned from a saint in India that modern physics is only now beginning to glimpse. Not a philosophy, not a belief system, not wishful thinking. A demonstrable power. And until you understand the mechanism behind it, you'll keep believing that physical reality is fixed, that matter is solid, that the things you need must be bought, earned, or taken from someone else. Yogananda spent years studying with masters who could do what we call impossible. Here's what they showed him. Think about a specific moment. You needed something. Not wanted, needed. Maybe it was rent, maybe it was medicine. Maybe it was food for your children when the account showed zero. You're standing somewhere, kitchen, bedroom, car, staring at nothing. Your chest is tight, your breath is shallow. Your mind is doing that thing where it runs the same calculation over and over, hoping the numbers will change. They don't change. The phone is in your hand, or the bill is on the counter. Or you're just sitting there, feeling the weight of it. And in that moment, something happens inside you. A door closes. You feel it physically, a contraction in your solar plexus, a heaviness behind your eyes, a kind of resignation that says, this is how it is, this is what's real. I am limited by physical law. That moment, that contraction, that resignation, that's what Yogananda's masters understood. Not as defeat, not as truth, but as the exact point where your power to create gets shut off. Here's what Yogananda realized that changes everything. The physical world is not what you think it is. We've been taught that matter is primary, that atoms are building blocks, that reality is made of solid stuff, that if you want something physical, you must manipulate other physical things to get it. But Yogananda's guru, Sri Yukteswar, explained something different. He taught that beneath the atomic structure of matter exists a finer layer of energy, what Yogananda called Lifetrons. These are conscious energy units. They are not particles in the way physics describes particles. They are not metaphors. They are the substrate from which all physical forms arise. Here's how Sri Yukteswar explained it. All matter is condensed energy. All energy is condensed thought. All thought is condensed consciousness. The progression is not matter, energy, consciousness. It's the reverse. Consciousness, thought, energy, matter. This means physical objects are not primary. They are downstream. They are the end product of a process that begins in awareness itself. When you understand this, you stop trying to manipulate the end product and start working with the source. But here's what most people miss. Understanding this intellectually does nothing. You can nod at this concept and still feel that contraction in your chest when you need something you can't afford. The knowing has to become cellular. It has to replace the old programming that says matter is real, consciousness is secondary. And that replacement doesn't happen through reading. It happens through practice, through direct experience, through witnessing what the body-mind calls impossible. There's a story Yogananda tells in his autobiography that changes how you see this. In the early 1900s, a saint named Vishuddhananda, known as Gandha Baba, the perfume saint, lived in Burdwan, India. He was not a philosopher, he was a demonstrator. Scientists came to test him, skeptics came to debunk him. The curious came to watch. And what they witnessed was consistent, repeatable, and unexplainable by any physics they knew. Gandha Baba would ask someone to name a scent, any scent, from anywhere in the world, whether it existed in India or not. Rose, sandalwood, an obscure French perfume, a flower native only to South America. Within moments, the room would fill with that exact fragrance. Not from a hidden bottle, not from an assistant. From nothing. The scent would materialize in the air around them. When tested under controlled conditions, the same thing happened. But Gandha Baba didn't stop at perfumes. He materialized fruits, he materialized flowers. He materialized cooked food, still warm, still fresh, appearing in empty bowls in front of witnesses who had just confirmed the bowls were empty. Yogananda himself witnessed these demonstrations. He questioned the saint directly. He tried to find tricks. There were none. When asked how he did it, Gandha Baba explained, God has given me the secret of materializing certain objects by tuning myself with the cosmic vibration that underlies all atomic structure. Notice what he said. Not, I imagine things and they appear. Not, I wish really hard. He said tuning. There's a frequency to physical reality. There's a vibratory structure beneath what we call solid. And a human being, through specific yogic practices, can learn to harmonize their own consciousness with that structure. When the frequencies match, the yogi becomes a conduit. The object doesn't appear from nowhere. It appears from everywhere. From the same field of potential that produces everything. The saint had trained his nervous system to become a clear channel for that field. Most human nervous systems are static. They're distorted by fear, desire, doubt, and the constant noise of an undisciplined mind. That static blocks the signal. Gandha Baba spent decades clearing the static. And once clear, the materializations were not miracles, they were physics. Just a physics we haven't validated yet. Now let me be clear about what this is and isn't. This isn't a promise that you'll materialize a new car tomorrow if you meditate long enough. That's not the point. The point is what this reveals about the nature of your relationship to physical reality. Most people operate from what Yogananda called material consciousness. They believe physical objects are fixed, scarcity is fundamental. Getting requires taking. What you don't have, you must earn or steal. This belief isn't just a thought, it's a body state. It's a nervous system configuration. It's the contraction in your chest when you stare at an empty bank account. And that contraction, that physical state, is what blocks the signal. Not because of some mystical law, because of how consciousness works. When you contract, you separate. When you separate, you're cut off from the field. When you're cut off, you can only manipulate what's already appeared. You become a shuffler of existing forms instead of a conduit for new ones. But here's what Yogananda understood. You don't have to be Gandha Baba. The same principle operates at every level. The person who relaxes into trust receives opportunities the anxious person never sees. The person who feels abundant acts differently, and those actions create outcomes. The person who stops contracting around lack opens a channel that contraction had closed. This isn't law of attraction fluff, it's something more direct. Your body-mind is an antenna. Static disrupts the signal. Clarity allows it through. The practices Yogananda taught, meditation, pranayama, devotion, are not religious rituals. They are techniques for clearing static, for turning a noisy, distorted antenna into a clear one. And as the antenna clears, things start to appear in your life that you did not manufacture. Not magic, mechanics. But mechanics you can't see until you stop believing in the religion of materialism. You already know someone who lives this way. At first, you might have judged them. They don't hustle like everyone else. They don't panic when money is low. They speak about the future as if good things are simply on their way. You thought they were naive, maybe delusional, maybe just lucky. But look at their life over time. Things work out for them, not always easily, not always immediately, but with a consistency that defies their apparent lack of effort. Jobs appear when they need them. People offer help they didn't ask for. Resources show up at the last minute, again and again. They're not doing magic. They're not visualizing checks appearing in their mailbox. They just don't contract. When they need something, they don't clench their jaw and calculate scarcity. They stay open. They keep breathing. They act from a state that resembles trust more than fear. And in that state, they see opportunities that contracted people miss. They attract offers that contracted people repel. They receive what contracted people block. Compare this to most people. They're either hustling with teeth clenched, working 80 hours, calculating every angle, treating the world as a zero-sum competition, burning out their nervous systems in the chase, or they're collapsed into helplessness, believing nothing can change, that the deck is stacked, that wanting more is greedy, that they should accept their lot and stop hoping. The person who gets it? Neither. They understand what Yogananda taught. Physical reality responds to the state you bring to it, not to your affirmations. not to your vision boards, to your actual state. So they work on the state first. They clear the static first. They handle the contraction first. And then they act. From clarity instead of noise, from openness instead of grasping, from sufficiency instead of lack. And reality responds differently to that person. Not because the universe plays favorites, because they're not blocking what was always available. Remember at the beginning when I said there's something Yogananda learned that modern physics is only now glimpsing? Now you understand why. Quantum physics has shown us that matter is not solid. At the subatomic level, particles are probabilities. Observation affects outcome. The line between energy and matter blurs until it's not a line at all. This is mainstream science now, not fringe. Not speculation. What Yogananda's gurus demonstrated 2,000 years ago, labs are now confirming in fragments. Reality is not fixed. Consciousness participates in the physical. The observer and the observed are not separate. We just haven't learned to use this knowledge yet. Except some people did learn. In caves in the Himalayas, in temples along the Ganges, in lineages that passed techniques from master to student for millennia. They didn't write papers, they demonstrated, and they taught the practices to those who were ready. Once you see this, 3 things shift. First, your relationship to lack changes. You stop experiencing scarcity as a fact about reality and start seeing it as a signal from your nervous system. The contraction isn't truth, it's programming. And programming can be updated. When you feel that tightness, the one that says there isn't enough, you recognize it as static on the antenna. You work with it, you breathe into it. You don't believe it as gospel. Second, your relationship to action changes. You stop acting from contraction. You notice when you're hustling from fear versus moving from clarity. There's a difference between effort and striving. Effort is natural, striving is static. You learn to act without clenching, to work without grasping, to move toward what you need without the desperation that repels it. Third, your relationship to the possible changes. The fixed world becomes less fixed. You stop seeing physical reality as a wall and start seeing it as a responsive medium. Not infinitely malleable, you're not Gandha Baba, but not solid concrete either. Somewhere in between. A place where your state affects your experience in ways materialism doesn't acknowledge. You stop worshiping the religion of scarcity. You start experimenting with a different operating system. And you notice what changes. This is what Yogananda called living by divine law rather than material law. Not ignoring the physical. Not pretending bills don't exist. Not floating away into spiritual bypassing. But understanding the hierarchy. Consciousness is primary. Energy flows from consciousness. Matter follows energy. When you invert this, when you treat matter as primary, you become enslaved to what is already formed. You shuffle existing objects. You fight over existing resources. You believe in limits that only exist because you've collapsed into them. But when you understand the actual sequence, you become creative in a different way. You work with the source rather than only the symptoms. You don't beg matter to rearrange itself. You clear the channel and allow new forms to arise. Yogananda put it simply. The man who says he cannot do a thing is beaten before he starts. Not because positive thinking magically changes reality. Because the contraction of I cannot shuts down the very faculties that would show you how you can. It closes the aperture. It narrows the field. It makes you blind to options that are right in front of you. And then when you don't see those options, you call your blindness reality. The saints Yogananda studied with learned to keep the aperture open, even when circumstances said, contract. That's the practice, that's the training. That's what made materialization possible at the extreme end, and what makes ordinary, impossible breakthroughs possible at your end. You came here wanting to know how to make physical objects appear out of thin air. The method is clear, clear the static. Match the frequency, become a conduit instead of a block. For Gandha Baba, this meant decades of yogic practice. For you, it means something more immediate. The next time you feel that contraction, the one that says there isn't enough, that you can't have what you need, that the physical world is fixed and you are small, pause. Recognize the static. Breathe. Don't believe the contraction is truth. Don't fight it either. Just hold it with awareness. And ask, if consciousness is primary, what does that mean about this moment? You won't materialize a mango on your kitchen counter, but you might notice a door you couldn't see when you were clenched. You might receive a call you wouldn't have been open to. You might find yourself acting in a way that creates an outcome the contracted version of you could never produce. This is not smaller than what Gandha Baba did. It's the same principle, just a different degree. And degrees can change with practice. Your inheritance is not poverty. It is not struggle. It is not the cramped reality that material consciousness presents as final. Your inheritance is the kingdom, the field from which all forms arise, the source that requires only an open channel to flow through. You are a child of that source,